But first, we must talk to Blackshirt and the Pride of Big Red Wrap-Up. Many other things. Jay Moore, who joins us every Wednesday at this time. Good morning.
Morning, guys. How we doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just kind of getting all
Whoa.
set up here. So sorry, the headphones weren't working for me. We're a little bit of a cluster right now.
Yeah,
We're getting there.
you're making me dizzy right now looking at all your camera angles here.
I hope to
Sorry,
God you're
we're
wearing
good.
pants.
We're good. We got it now.
Okay.
I
So,
think.
we've reached a point around here where there's some angst about defense when a 16-play drive results in a field goal. And I thought Tony White, he got right to the point yesterday about what he saw, what they did. What do you think, as a guy that watched Saturday night from a defensive mind, what do you think the first couple of cut-ups were when the defensive guys got back together post UNI to get ready for this week?
Yeah, probably quite a few of them. Some of those leaky runs, yards after contact. I mean, there's a lot of it. 150 plus yards after contact on Saturday night against a FCS team. And listen, they have some talent and they got some big bodies, and they came in here with a bad attitude and wanted to take it to Nebraska, and they did for a little bit. But I think there's a lot of those plays where guys were in position to make a tackle, and they just didn't come in there violent and physical. We just discussed last week, right, how they've been a well improved tackling team, and it's all about mentality and attitude and having bad intentions. And sometimes they didn't have bad intentions. They're just kind of hoping they're going to get in the way and the guy would fall down. And the Northern Iowa wasn't having it. So there's probably 5-6 plays where guys were in position and kind of just threw a shoulder in there and didn't wrap up and didn't have bad intentions when they came in there to make that tackle. And I guarantee you, Tony White and staff, and that's going to get that fixed because he got punched in the mouth a little bit, which honestly was surprising to see, but not the worst thing in the world with the team they're about ready to get who they're going to play on Friday and who they got left on the slate the rest of the season. So they'll get it fixed. I'm not too concerned, or I'm not ready to overreact quite yet.
I thought it was interesting to hear both Ty Robinson and even Tony White talk about the absence of Jamari Butler and what his overall presence. We know the type of player that he has turned himself into on that defense, but in an effort and kind of going off of what you were just saying right there, in an effort that seemed off, maybe the best way I'd say is off. I was listening to Ty Robinson yesterday, and he was more than confident that you're not going to experience that, especially with Jamari Butler. When you think of a guy that not only plays the part physically, but also seems to have a little bit of that attitude in a game like this as well, coming up on Friday, what are you missing and what are you gaining when a guy like that's not on the field just with that type of confidence, but when a guy is, and how that affects the other 10 guys on the field?
Yeah, it's weird. I think defensive line is very similar to offensive line. I think there's a chemistry, there's a camaraderie. You play off of each other naturally. When offensive line, it's 5 guys working together no matter what. Defensive line, different but similar. But I remember all the years of playing, and you get used to playing next to one guy for majority of the snaps, and the sub comes in and someone else comes in, and just not quite right. The feel's different. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they dealt that a little bit, right? As a guy that has some juice, has a little bit of edge, and a guy who can kind of pick each other up when they're out there. But it's a feel thing. I was even talking last night on Big Red Wrap-Up is sometimes the best D-line plays off of each other in a natural way. Sometimes you're calling stunts in games and pass rush and against the run. And a lot of times you can almost show your cards a little too early, and offenses can pick up on it. But you can play off each other and just how things happen and naturally evolve throughout the game and throughout the play. And sometimes that's the best recipe for making plays as a defensive lineman. And when you don't have that chemistry and that feel with your guy, it can be a little off. And I had probably something to do with it. But I think also, Nebraska's played a ton of guys so far through the first 3 games defensively. And you saw a lot of guys rotating on the defensive line. You saw Davis and, saw a lot more Judy. And you saw more guys play than you saw the week prior. So I think they were trying to get some guys some reps, do a little bit of load management as well to get ready for this Big Ten slate. And but like I said, chemistry is big for the D lineman, and it was just a little off without Jamari there.
Hey, when we hear coaches say, man, this is going to be a physical game, it's going to be a fist fight, we go, oh, yeah, it's going to be in the trenches. As a player, when you know it's going to be a physical, man on man, beat you up type of game, what does that do to your mentality?
Oh, gee, I mean, honestly, I would doesn't doesn't change my mentality. It wouldn't have changed my mentality. Just how I approach it every week. I prepared myself for a fist fight every week. I mean, as a defensive lineman, it's not for the faint of heart. You know, you're in there, you're amongst it. There's all sort of, there's all sorts of stuff that goes in that pile, right? And your double teams and whatever it is, right? I mean, the offensive lineman wants to take your head off, and we want to do the same. So it's always a physical battle. But honestly, when you know teams are trying to run the football, you love those type of games, man. It's a D lineman's dream. I know sacks and pass rush is the sexy part, but when they want to try to run the ball, man, you just know, and you can kind of get a good read for it, and you get a good feel for the game, and you can start reading their stances, and you can start identifying plays throughout the game, and you can just start teeing off on them, and then obviously get them in obvious third and long passing situations where that's where you get your butt up in the air and you get off the ball and you go get the quarterback. But I prepared myself every week for a fist fight. I always respected every opponent. That's the process you kind of want to approach, and approach it always the same way. Is it's going to be a fist fight? It's going to be a phone booth type of battle, and you prepare that way and get after it, no matter if it's Northern Iowa or Illinois or whoever it may be. You always got to prepare for that battle each and every week, mentally, anyways.
The part about, and especially you have experienced this, when you're able to take away that element from an offense of the running game where whatever they're going to try to throw at you, they're just not getting success, that panic sets in. Maybe hopefully your offense is also taking care of business where they're playing catch up. When that clicks, what is that feeling like as a defender when all right, they're not running on us and we've got them broken right now? What's the conversation? What's that like in the huddle? What's that like on the sideline?
Yeah, there's nothing quite like it. It's fun, man. You just know you can, especially when you start seeing offensive linemen get frustrated. You see the quarterback getting frustrated. You see the running backs getting frustrated and start yelling at each other. Got to do this. You got to do that, and that's you won right there. And they start battling with each other, and that's, like I said, when you're stopping the run and it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 12, whatever it is. They're behind the chains and they have to throw the football. You can start doing. I mean, it's just you just tee off, right? And it's a blast. You can start getting a little more creative with some games. You start doing some things. You start bragging with your teammates. You start, doing little inside bets, right? Who can get to the quarterback? Who can get more sacks? Who can get more TFLs? It just helps the mentality of it all. And been a part of a few games, but also been a part of a few games where we've been on the opposite side, right? Where we're just kind of like, God dang, we can't get a stop right now. Yeah. But I tell you what, I feel like Nebraska with their defensive line is going to have a lot of those games. I think at times this year where they're so good up front where they can kind of own the line of scrimmage and get a lot of third and long situations and let that secondary go to town.
Jay Moore, number 44, Blackshirt, joining us as he does every Wednesday. Let's go over to offense, because when you sit up high, you can see the play design and wide receivers. And I would love to be in the meetings with Glenn Thomas and Marcus Satterfield during the week, because they must love being on the whiteboard. They ran sometimes Banks as a decoy Saturday night, Jay, where he would run a 9 route, and then someone would run a dig, basically a tight end.
Yeah.
And the middle of the field was wide open, and there was no one around because they had been running 9 routes that were running off defensive backs. And I look at, man, they have poise, they have options, they have different guys that fit roles. But then I'm looking bigger picture. What do you think is the next step for this offense after the first 3 games?
Man, that's a good question. I think it's tough because this offense has been so balanced. Obviously, I don't think they ran the ball as successfully as they wanted to on Saturday night. They had some big chunk runs and did some things, but Northern Iowa was pretty heavy in the box at times and brought some guys where they're going to make some plays. Where I'd like to see them evolve, because I think obviously answer number 1 is establishing the run. I think that's always what they're going to try to do. But besides that, the weapons they have, and I don't think they've utilized them as much, is a guy that we've only seen very, not as much in the pass game as utilizing Fedoni. We haven't seen him. We haven't seen him much, and maybe teams are taking him away. I'm not seeing the game film and trying to figure out exactly what they're doing, but he is such a weapon that we just seen it in the short game and some bubble screens. We just haven't seen him in certain situations, and maybe that's because we have Naylor and we have guys like Banks. We have bigger bodies and Barney with some electric athletic ability who can make some plays, but. It's hard to pick one thing because they have so many weapons, and I can't imagine you have a quarterback now that can get on the ball and make the simple throws. Right? We've had quarterbacks in the past that struggled making a screen pass, struggled making a bubble screen. Those high percentages throws. That's almost a given. Knock on wood, right? With Dylan, and so listen, I think they are doing and taking what defense is giving them right now. But to try to figure out one thing, I don't know. It's tough because they've been so balanced. I love to see them get the run game established more. We've seen that at times with Dowdell. And again, there's so many weapons. You've got 4 running backs who are more than capable to come in and play. We got 4 wide receivers are more than capable to come in and do some things. We got multiple tight ends. You throw in Carter Nelson in the mix. There's the stable's deep right now, and I can't remember years in the past. Maybe you got to go back to Martinez eras where you had Quincy Enunwa and Kenny Bell and Sethan Carter, where you have these weapons to throw to. But it's fun to see because I couldn't imagine trying to prepare for this offense as defense where you have some balance and you have these guys who's like, who are you going to stop? Like who do you want to pick your poison, right? And I don't know who I'd pick right now because there's you take away one option, boom, you have this. So I imagine being Satterfield in game plan. It's like, it's almost like going to Cheesecake Factory. I feel like the menu's there's almost too much, right, with this offense. And I just hopefully, but we keep with the physicality. Losing Mazuka, not having whatever situation he's in. Latofsky came in and played pretty good on Saturday night, but have that physicality, keep the run game up, and then whoever you're going to take away, fine. We got 3 other guys that we can utilize in the passing game to dice you up.
And okay, and I think you bring up something interesting there, especially as it pertains to the running game, where 2 weeks ago we heard Ramiro was going to be third down back, and he was. Last week it was Emmett was going to be a third down back, and he was. Are you under the impression that it's going to all 4 of those guys are going to have a certain role given the opponent, or do you think that week of practice is still dictating what the majority of those reps are going to entail, usually with a 2 running back type of group?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think right now, the week of practice is dictating who's going to get what kind of reps and who's going to be put in what situation, which I couldn't agree more with. You got to prepare the right way. And when you have 4 guys who are more than capable of doing it, the competition's high. And you have to reward the guys who prepare the right way, do things the right way, attention to detail, and honestly, don't get too down on themselves or, pout, because listen, I mean, Gabe Urban's a heck of a back, has some injuries, but you have to have guys come in and compete every single day. And they're going to reward those guys that do that. And I'm all for it. And but that's the nice thing though too is you haven't seen Dowdell much in the backfield, but when Ramir comes in, he can carry it between the tackles and catch it out of the backfield. When Emmett comes through, he can carry it through the tackles and catch it out of the backfield. Gabe Urban's more of a downhill guy. Dowdell's more of a downhill guy. You don't see them utilize that in the pass game as much, but again, you got multiple weapons back there that can do multiple things, and it's a mix with those backs, right, too, because you got to be able to pick up on blitz. You got to be able to trust them in when it's third and short, third and long, and you got to blitz pick up. But I think rewarding those guys throughout the week is where they're headed, where they're leaning, and then just kind of seeing who's handling the competition the right way and handling, not getting the reps and the carries like they like, and not, like I said, not pouting too much. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Hey, let me take you over to the other side, and I want you to go into the mind of Aaron Henry, who's the defensive coordinator under Bielema, the pride of Immokalee, Florida, by the way, where Edwin James is from. I covered Aaron Henry in high school, a little Southwest Florida there.
Yeah.
But I want you to play the role of the defensive coordinator coming into this game against a still rookie quarterback starting his 4th game, but a kid that's got great poise and feel in the pocket and those weapons that he alluded to. What do you think Illinois tries to do against Dillon on Friday night?
Yeah, I think you're going to see some pressure. Let's see how he operates when he has to think quick. I always want to say Northern Illinois. Northern Iowa did it at times, but he eluded that pressure, and he had to Lloyd in the first half. They had those back-to-back series of plays where they scored really quick, and I think he's going to bring pressure. Defense is they have some guys who can rush. Let's see how he operates in quick, and when he has to think quickly and get the ball in his hands as quick as possible to limit big plays. The big plays have been big for this offense. They've been able to score quick at times, but let's see how the young kid functions when they're bringing 5, they're bringing 6, they're bringing 7, right? And who are his options to dump off to? And I think they're going to come in here and try to dictate how they want to operate, not sit back there and see how Nebraska's going to operate. They're going to want to dictate and get to Dillon early and often, and just to speed things up, speed up his mental process, get him uncomfortable, get him out of the pocket so he limits what side of the field he's able to operate in, and see how the young man can think on his feet and think under duress, because we haven't seen it. We've seen it at times, but I tell you what, we've seen Dillon be able to step in the pocket and dice some guys up, but we haven't seen teams really get after him with natural pass rush and then bring in a couple extra guys. So I think, early and often they're going to try to dictate and bring extra guys and see how the young guy can think and process under pressure.
And he talks a lot about his eyes downfield. And Jay, if in the early stages of watching Dillon Ryle, the thing that has shown up a lot, not just the calmness, we know the arm strength, but his ability to look off a defender, even when he is moving out of the pocket. And you saw a little bit of that in Colorado game, but also last week too. As a defender, when you know you're beating your man and you're getting to where you need to be, what is the most frustrating thing when a quarterback is still able to beat you just with what he's doing? I mean, is it just God-given accuracy, or is it that part of what he's using above his shoulders, his head, his ability to look off defenders and still get that throw there?
Yeah, it's a nice mix of both. I remember that throw he made to Borkacher, and he's done this multiple times this year in the Colorado game. So I broke it down in a bigger wrap up. It was a seam pass on 3rd and long, on like 3rd and 24, and they pick up the first down. You see him look. You can see the stripe of his helmet looking left,
right,
and holding that safety there to open up that gap for Borkacher to get back into. But if it wasn't there, then he had, I think Ramir Emmett was coming out of the backfield. Would that force the linebacker to kind of step up? But just playing with your eyes as a defender, now you're taught. You're always, for the majority of the time, when you're in zone coverage, you always read the eyes of the quarterback. They're saying the eyes are going to take you wherever he's going to go. And that's why quarterbacks are taught to look guys off and set guys up with their eyes. But you have to trust their eyes for the most part. You can't really look at the routes too much, and because you can get too tied up and get confused in the back end. But his ability to play with his head and what's above his shoulders is really important. I think he sets it up. He knows he's so good at understanding coverages and reading them, so he knows where they're threatened, and he knows to try to set them up to try to get it on the backside. But again, it's his ability to make a throw. I mean, if there's any knock I have on Dillon is sometimes he puts too much air on the ball. I'd like to see him kind of get it in there a little more quickly sometimes. But still, his ability to put it where his guys can only catch it is awesome. But also his poise in the pocket. So many young guys are, when they feel pressure off the edge, they'll scramble outside. His ability to step up, even on that throw to Borkacher, Corcoran got beat on the edge, and the guy almost got there. I mean, just a half second earlier, that ball's getting knocked out of Dillon's hand. But his ability just to step up and put that thing on the money and over the linebacker's head was, I mean, that's a big time throw. And it's fun to watch, man. It's fun to finally have a guy back there that's able to do these things and make these kind of throws. And he's, like I said, he's 19 going on 38, it seems like, back there. And it's a pleasure.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy Friday night. And as always, we enjoy your work, not only with us, but also on Tuesdays with Michael and the crew.
All right. Thanks, boys. We'll talk to you next week.
It's Jay Moore, Blackshirt. You can find him on Tuesdays on Big Red Wrap Up. And then he comes on and disses on what goes on behind the scenes of Big Red Wrap Up on Wednesdays.